Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
For the past few days, her family had lived in pain because of her. She could not even hear laughter in the family anymore, wishing the gloomy air would fade away soon. Hence, no matter how heartbroken she was, she had to learn to face life calmly. She would do it even if there were no more joy in her life, where she could never recover from Jasper's departure. After all, this man had occupied her whole heart, a sacred place where no other man could squeeze his way in. With quick steps, Elliot hastily went over to them. When the bodyguard was about to open the car door, he waved them away and opened it himself. With reddened eyes, Willow smiled at her father. "Dad." His heart ached as he reached out to pat her. "Your mother made some of your favorite food. Come on, let's go in." "Okay." With that, she held her father's arm as they entered the hall. Anastasia went out early in the morning to shop for the ingredients. Then, she busied herself in the kitchen from morning until then, desperately wanting her daughter to eat more. In just a few days, Willow had lost a few pounds. Her health would be at risk if she kept that up. With her baby in her arms, Ellen came over and greeted Willow. Looking at her adorable nephew, Willow also felt a little better. She held the baby, gazing at his cute face, and then planted a kiss on his little cheek. Seeing that her son could make Willow a little happier, Ellen left and worked on other things so that Willow could spend more time with her son. The baby was quite an effective cure for downcast hearts. He would giggle after someone played with him, and his chubby fingers would touch Willow's face as he babbled with an innocent voice. When Anastasia saw Willow playing with her grandson, she let out a sigh of relief as well. Elliot, who had been helping her since this morning, walked over. Wrapping his arms around his wife, he whispered, "Her mood has improved. Our baby girl has grown up." "I didn't even notice that." Anastasia felt comforted. Her daughter was growing more mature, which meant she knew how to hide her feelings and deal with them herself. When Anastasia thought about it, her heart ached for her. Elliot lamented, "Yes, our daughter grew up in the blink of an eye. She was so carefree just a few months ago." Of course, Anastasia knew that girls would learn to grow up when they met a man they loved. With emotional independence came a new wall between her and her parents, where not all grievances needed to be shared. "I was on a call with Richard just now. Jasper has recovered, but there's something wrong with his hearing. He needs treatment. Poor child. If you have a chance to thank him, please do. Now, Antoine is hiding him and preventing us from contacting each other. If there's a chance in the future, we should thank him properly. I hope Willow will get over this soon and return to normal life. She still has a long road ahead of her," said Anastasia. As a mother, she only had one wish, to see her children happy. Elliot nodded. "I'll look for a suitable partner for her." Anastasia leaned into his embrace. At that moment, she felt calm and quiet. He lowered his head and kissed her hair. "You've worked hard." At noon, Willow felt her appetite returning as she enjoyed her mother's cooking. She had also finished the soup her father ladled out for her. Due to that, Anastasia knew she would have to be in charge of cooking for the foreseeable future. Now, they only had servants who came to help out at specific times and would not need the others for the time being. She had also heard about the incident with Sasha, whom she still felt sorry for. Although Sasha almost harmed her daughter, her family was also involved, despite being innocent. At last, Sasha also paid for her crimes with her life. Anastasia's heart was heavy when she thought about it. Every life mattered, and none was less deserving than the other. Also, Sasha cared the most about her son and husband. Hence, the Presgraves had given them their due compensation. In the afternoon, Willow received an invitation to a meeting at the museum at 2:00 p.m. The batch of cultural artifacts she submitted last time was already processed. More than 10 of those artifacts would be exhibited in the museum. As the greatest contributor, Willow naturally had to go and take a look. They even had an opening ceremony. Her heart ached terribly. The artifacts were closely linked to Jasper, but now, she was the only one who could go to the museum. She wished he were there as well. Willow had a strong feeling that Jasper was still alive. Perhaps he couldn't meet her right now, but she believed that he was still alive. Her father, brother, and mother were calm when they mentioned him. According to what she knew of her family, they would look at least a little sad if Jasper had truly passed away. At that moment, Willow couldn't find any answers, but her heart had already given her one. If she kept waiting, he would appear once again. She trusted that he would. This was her reason for staying strong and courageous right now. She had hope. For the rest of her life, as long as Jasper was still alive, she would find him. They would meet again someday. Perhaps it might take 5 years, or 10 years, or 20. She could wait. When Elliot heard about the matter, he went to talk to his daughter. Willow, if you don't want to attend the meeting at the museum, I can cancel it for you. Elliot was worried that this matter would remind Willow of Jasper. She might break down. Willow, however, was calm. She shook her head and said, "Dad, you don't have to cancel it for me. I want to attend it. Also, I can have a change of scenery while I'm at it." At that, Elliot said, "I'll send someone to escort you there. You're not allowed to say no to this. You know that I can't afford to let you take risks again." "Okay, I understand. I won't make you guys worry again," Willow said. Then, Elliot went downstairs to give orders to the bodyguards. Willow dressed up and set out. The museum was closed today, so the whole building was silent. Sitting in the meeting room, Willow listened as they explained and introduced the artifacts. Just as expected, she couldn't help but think back on those days she went to sea. Those days were dangerous yet beautiful. Jasper's face came to life in her mind. She remembered the sea breeze blowing as he looked at her with narrowed eyes. There was joy in his dark eyes. She believed that there was admiration and love in her eyes when she looked at him. "Miss Presgrave, would you like to say a word?" Someone was asking her a question. Willow instantly returned to her senses. She blinked. "What? Would you like to say a word?" Willow stood up. Noticing that one person's name was missing from the credits, she spoke up. "Help me add another name in the credits." "Oh. Did we forget a contributor's name?" The chairman of the museum was shocked. They were very careful about these things, after all. "Yes, you did. The name is Jasper Wyatt." "Please add the name next to mine, thanks," Willow said to the chairman. The chairman immediately asked his assistant to handle this matter. He said apologetically, "I'm so sorry, Miss Presgrave. My staff must have overlooked something." "No, this has nothing to do with your staff." Willow smiled. It was because this man had willingly given up on it as he refused to reveal himself, but it all worked out now because she could take things into her own hands. In the future, whenever the artifacts were introduced, everyone would see that the greatest contributor was Willow Presgrave, accompanied by the name Jasper Wyatt. It was quite meaningful. Willow took part in the opening ceremony. She stood in the center. She looked beautiful, innocent, and youthful as the breeze picked up. Even photographers kept taking shots from various angles so that the greatest contributor would look great in photos. "Miss Presgrave, I will exhibit our photos in the museum, but they will also be published in the newspapers and on the internet. If you don't wish to make an appearance in this area, we can arrange that." Willow smiled heartily. "No need. You can go ahead and publish it. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Presgrave." She really hoped that the specific person could see it. If he goes online, he will surely see me. After a series of photo shoots, at 4:30 p.m., her bodyguard escorted her home. On the way, she asked the bodyguard to change the route to Jasper's house. Whenever she had time, she would come here to sit, and she would also have people clean up this place periodically. Whether that man was still alive or not, she hoped to preserve this place forever. She sat on the couch in Jasper's villa, looking at the note she left 2 days ago. Once again, she took out a pen and wrote a sentence. I miss you, Jasper. If you are truly alive, please give me some hints, okay? I have no other requests. I just want to know if you are still alive. After she finished writing, she signed it with "The One Who Loves You." She stayed there for a while until she realized it was getting late. If she didn't go back soon, her mother would worry about her, so she got up and left. At the same time, in a mysterious base, Jasper was still in a state of recuperation. His seniors and juniors had visited him one after another. Luckily, he had no restrictions on using the internet here. He quietly turned on the computer. The only way he could learn about the outside world was through the internet, and the thing he most wanted to know was how Willow was doing. Checking for her updates was also the only thing he wanted to do. Sure enough, he found that she had attended a museum exhibition today. As he looked at the photos of the girl smiling at the camera, a smile tugged on his lips uncontrollably. Seeing her doing well made him happy. Even though he still couldn't hear anything, his heart was filled with warmth, because the person he cared about was doing well. He then switched the surveillance of his villa. Though he knew Willow would not go to his house again, he still wanted to take a look. As he switched to the surveillance in his living room, he immediately spotted the note on the couch. At once, his heart trembled, and he zoomed in on it. The moment he saw the words on it, his heart ached. Willow still wants to know whether I'm alive or not. Does she know I'm still alive? At this thought, he couldn't help but smile wryly. Didn't Uncle explain the situation to the Presgrave family? Seeing those words, he couldn't help but feel torn inside. Should I let her know I'm still alive? But she's doing so well now. Is it right for me to enter her life again? The Presgrave family is definitely working hard to protect her. If I reappear in her life, it won't be fair to them. When he shut down the computer, his eyes were clear and calm. He was resolute in dealing with all matters, except when it came to Willow. In her case, he became indecisive about everything. On the weekend, the Presgrave family went on a vacation together to their private island. Jared and Ellen stayed in another villa to enjoy some private space while Willow spent time with her parents. In the morning, she went jogging with her family to relax, and in the afternoon, she went fishing in the sea with her father and elder brother. As night fell, she took a stroll under the moonlit trees with her mother. Willow felt that they all wanted to see her happy, so she tried her best to show that she was happy. After returning from this week-long vacation, she immediately went to Jasper's villa. She noticed that the notes had accumulated a layer of faint dust, but she hadn't received the response she was hoping for. She couldn't help but write another note. Jasper, send me flowers if you are still alive. Otherwise, I'll just marry someone randomly. At the end, she drew an angry emoticon. Though she knew she was being a bit foolish by doing something this silly, for her, these were signs of hope and a form of consolation. After she finished writing the note, she left the villa. She then waited at home, wondering if someone would really send her flowers. On the other hand, Jasper also checked the house's surveillance regularly. For a whole week, he kept watching. He had also found out that the Presgraves were not in the city, they had gone on vacation elsewhere. Unexpectedly, Jasper saw Willow's message again today. So, he rewound the footage by 2 hours, and that was when he saw her car parked outside his house and her skillfully entering his home. She first looked around as if checking for surveillance cameras, but he had installed them discreetly, so she couldn't find them at all. Then, she sat down and took out a piece of paper from her bag to write a note. His pupils contracted sharply when he zoomed in on the camera and read the sentence that she wrote. Is she really going to marry someone randomly? Just to spite me? Where did she find out that I'm still alive? The Presgraves will definitely keep this secret, and their bodyguards will never tell her without permission. Watching her draw an angry emoji, he couldn't help but be amused for a few seconds, but then he pursed his lips, locking onto that sentence and feeling a tightening in his heart. Is she really going to marry someone randomly? After Willow returned to the Presgrave residence, she waited for 3 days, but no one sent her flowers. This disappointed her. She was only joking, but suddenly, she wanted to take this joke a step further. So, during dinner, she asked her elder brother, Jared, do you know any outstanding young men? Introduce one to me. Instantly, the people at the table all stared at her in astonishment. Elliot and Anastasia exchanged a glance. What? Has our daughter finally come to her senses? Likewise, Jared secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Willow seems to have let go of Jasper. Does this mean she's ready to enter a new relationship? I do, of course. I know many outstanding men. Tell me your preferences, and I'll find someone for you, he said with a smile. She propped her chin up and thought seriously before replying, I like tall, handsome, and charismatic men. At her words, he immediately thought of one of his juniors. He had just returned to the country to take over the family business and was 27 years old, tall, handsome, warm, and capable. Well, I have a junior. I've known him for many years, and he's excellent. I'll introduce you to him. With a nod, she said, okay, I'm interested. Please introduce us as soon as possible, Jared. Sure, I'll introduce you to him tomorrow. He's currently in the country, and I'm sure he'll like you too. Willow smiled. Okay. After dinner, Anastasia and Elliot were chatting in their room. She felt that something was off with their daughter, so she turned to her husband and asked, what's going on with Willow? Why does she suddenly want to start dating? Elliot couldn't figure it out either. Didn't our daughter really like Jasper? It hasn't even been half a month, and she's already ready to jump into another relationship? This change had caught him off guard as well. Maybe she wants to use a new relationship to forget about the previous one, he suggested. She thought about it and realized it made sense. Girls often use this method to force themselves to move on from their previous relationships. Maybe you're right. Let's get Jared to introduce someone to her. His friends should be reliable. I'll keep an eye on the guy too, Elliot said. He would need to thoroughly check on anyone who wanted to become a part of the Presgrave family. The next day at noon, Jared arranged a meeting with his junior, and Willow also came to the company to meet him. This junior was named Leslie Payne. He was handsome, warm, and fit the criteria for a handsome man. He had already heard about Willow, who had recently made headlines in the news. This achievement was not something just anyone could accomplish. When he saw her photo, he already had a good impression of her. So, when he met her in person, he was instantly excited, like how teenage boys were, for she completely met his highest standards of beauty. Willow, this is Leslie Payne, my junior. Jared hadn't expected that he would someday become his sister's matchmaker. Hello, Miss Presgrave. It's an honor to meet you. Hello, Mr. Payne. Willow sized him up. He's indeed very handsome. At the same time, she couldn't help feeling a bit guilty because she was using him to achieve her other purpose, not because she genuinely liked him. Her heart could no longer hold anyone else, except for that man who had disappeared without a trace. I still have a meeting. You guys chat while you eat. Jared decided to leave. He was quite satisfied with this young man, who had also been thoroughly investigated. After Jared left, he reported to his parents. By now, Elliot had thoroughly researched Leslie's family history, and it seemed that he came from a respectable background. After Willow and Leslie finished their meal, they headed to a nearby cafe for their date. Leslie sat on the sofa, and Willow took the initiative to sit next to him. This made him so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. As Willow moved closer, he felt nervous, his palms even slightly sweaty. Then Willow said to him, "Let's take some selfies. You can put your arm around my shoulder." Leslie immediately placed his arm around her shoulder, and the two of them leaned in for a photo. They looked like a sweet couple who was a perfect match. After taking the photos, Willow said to Leslie, "Let's make it a regular thing to meet up in the future." "Sounds great." Leslie was also very happy. Leslie wanted to drive her home, but Willow declined. She had driven herself here, and this time, she hadn't brought any bodyguards with her. She quickly headed toward Jasper's villa. On the way, she printed out a few of the photos. In the pictures, she and Leslie looked incredibly compatible. Back at the villa, she arranged the 3 photos on the table and continued to write a note. "Jasper, do you think my blind date is handsome? He really likes me, but I really like you. If you don't show up soon, I might just marry him and forget about you." After finishing the note, she added, "You don't have to appear in front of me, and you don't need to send me flowers. All you have to do is send me the number 520 at any time within the next 3 days. I just need to know that you're still alive." Willow finished writing but was still reluctant to leave. After all, it was still early, and she was feeling a bit tired. She lay down on the sofa for a nap. At the base, Jasper, who had just finished lunch and returned to his ward, couldn't help but glance at the computer next to him. He let out a faint sigh. His usual self-discipline seemed to disappear when it came to Willow. Whenever he thought of her, his mind became a mess. Jasper picked up the laptop and continued to access the surveillance network to check on Willow's activities. She hadn't updated her social media in a long time. However, what he saw in front of him now was Willow's latest post. It was a photo of her with a young man, both of them smiling sweetly. Willow was practically leaning into his arms, and the man had his arm around her shoulders. Jasper's breath hitched. This girl really didn't waste any time. Willow had added a caption. "When you meet someone you like, just hold on." Jasper tensed up. He let out a breath and stared at the photo, unable to tear his gaze away from it. He then had another thought and exited Willow's social media, checking his own villa's surveillance. But what he saw made his heart soften to the extreme. Willow was asleep on the sofa in his house, and he wasn't sure how long she had been curled up there. Jasper couldn't help but reach toward the computer screen, as if wanting to touch her. Willow's curled-up form looked like she was cold. It was already early winter, but she hadn't covered herself with anything. This girl still hadn't learned to take care of herself. Jasper felt a pang of tenderness in his heart. He then noticed the photos on the table and her written note. He immediately zoomed in to get a better look. After reading, his heart ached so much that it throbbed. The man in the photo was just someone she had met despite him. She still liked him. Jasper held his phone and found Willow's number. After typing 520, he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he immediately checked the information about the man who took photos with Willow. After he finished the search, everything about Leslie appeared in front of him clearly. This was a man with an outstanding and impeccable resume. He had a height of 186 centimeters, good looks, and his genes were also excellent. Jasper also checked one more thing, which was Leslie's history of staying in hotels. Clearly, Leslie had no history of scandals or staying in hotels with questionable women. He was a young man from a wealthy family, raised and protected in a similar manner as Willow. Jasper's gaze remained fixed on the man in the photo. In the depths of his eyes, a complex and profound light flickered, containing emotions of envy and admiration. Yes, Jasper envied this man because he and Willow were truly a perfect match. They were the ones truly suited for each other, while he had too many constraints. Plus, with his current hearing problems, he knew he couldn't give Willow a happy future. On the other hand, the man in the photo, with his perfect credentials, was the one who could provide her with a peaceful and stable life. She wouldn't have to live in fear anymore. Jasper decided to delete the 3 numbers 520 that he had typed on his phone. He placed the phone beside him and turned on the villa's surveillance camera. He saw that Willow had packed up and was about to leave. She glanced at the note on the table and then turned to leave. Jasper continued to monitor the video feeds along the way to see her off. He watched as she entered the Presgrave residence, and only then did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside. It was Jasper's former colleague, Amy. She had just returned from a mission and, upon hearing about Jasper's situation, hadn't even reported for duty before she rushed over just to see him. She didn't believe that Jasper had lost his hearing. In her eyes, this man was an unstoppable force. How could he have lost his hearing? Amy walked into the ward and sat next to Jasper. She called out to him, "Jasper. Can you hear me?" In just a few days, Jasper had already learned some basic lip reading. He looked at Amy and quickly understood what she was saying. He shook his head in response. "I can't hear." Amy's eyes welled up with tears. "How did this happen? Tell Mr. Wyatt to find the best specialists to treat you. I don't want anything to happen to you." Seeing Amy so upset, Jasper spoke up to comfort her. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Amy's eyes flickered with a hint of resentment. Jasper had risked his life to save Willow. Why did she always bring trouble to him? Now that Jasper's hearing was impaired, he wouldn't be able to continue his work. He was so talented, and he shouldn't have to live like this. At this moment, Antoine knocked on the door and walked in. Amy immediately stood up. "Mr. Wyatt, I need to talk to my nephew for a moment." "You can go write up the mission report," Antoine said to her. Amy looked back at Jasper with reluctance. "Jasper, from now on, I'll take care of you. No matter what your future holds, I'll be with you." Amy left, and Antoine's gaze fell on his nephew. After sitting down, Antoine took out a report for him. Jasper took the report. It was an assessment of his hearing impairment, and the chances of recovery were only 30%. However, there was another option, which was to wait for a donor. "I've already started looking for a donor for you, Jasper. Don't lose hope. I will make sure you're cured." Antoine typed on his phone. Jasper felt like resting. He said to his uncle, "Uncle, there's no rush. I can take a break for now. I'll give you plenty of time to rest. If you don't want to retire in the future, I'll fight for that for you too." Antoine typed in reply. Jasper could completely retire from this line of work and do what he truly wanted. Jasper shook his head. "I don't want to leave for now." He had an attachment to this place. It was where he had grown up and where he had accepted his missions. Only here could he find peace of mind. Antoine nodded and wrote, "Then rest well. Don't concern yourself with Miss Presgrave unless it's necessary." As Antoine handed the phone over to him, his gaze turned slightly serious. He could see all of Jasper's traces on the internet, so whatever he did or looked up, his subordinates would report it to him. Jasper lowered his head. "I understand." Back at her home, Willow didn't feel like doing anything. She stared at her phone, waiting for a message. She didn't know if she would receive it, but she wouldn't give up. Just then, a message notification sounded. Willow's eyes widened in happiness as she quickly picked up her phone to check. However, the message was from Leslie. "Willow, what are you up to?" Leslie took the initiative to start a conversation. The initial joy in Willow's eyes was instantly replaced by a sense of disappointment. She replied to Leslie and continued to wait for another message. "Tomorrow, I have a club event. It's a lot of fun. Would you like to come with me?" Leslie extended the invitation. Willow thought for a moment, feeling a mix of frustration and resignation. She replied, "Sure, I'd like to join." "That's great. I'll pick you up tomorrow." Leslie sent a smiley face. Willow responded, "All right, see you tomorrow." She wasn't in the mood to chat right now. Then, she looked at the time, it was already 11 at night. She didn't know if she would receive the message she was waiting for. Feeling a bit thirsty, Willow got up and went downstairs to get some water. At this moment, she saw her elder brother and father downstairs, discussing company business. Willow couldn't help but crouch down beside the stairs, eavesdropping on their conversation. After all, she had done this kind of thing many times before and had gained some experience. Naturally, they didn't notice her. Their discussion about work was rather boring to her. She couldn't understand a word of what they were saying about company operations and project development. She often wondered how her mother managed an international jewelry store so successfully, while her father and elder brother were both business geniuses. It seemed like it was just her who hadn't inherited the business genes. Willow felt quite helpless about it. Just when she was getting bored and thinking of going upstairs with the bottle of water, she suddenly heard Jared's voice change as he asked their father a question. "Dad, have you talked to Mr. Lloyd? Is Jasper recovering?" Elliot's voice came through. "Yes, I've talked to him. He said Jasper has basically recovered, but the Wyatt family doesn't want any further contact with our family." Willow's eyes widened suddenly. She was overcome with excitement, and she almost let out a surprised exclamation. However, she quickly covered her mouth to prevent herself from making any noise, because she wanted to eavesdrop on more of the conversation. However, her heart was screaming with joy. He was still alive, she just knew it. Tears of joy welled up in Willow's eyes, though she was smiling. Her eyes sparkled like crescent moons. This was the happiest she had been in a long time. Even though she heard her father say that the Wyatt family didn't want Jasper to have any contact with her, it didn't matter. As long as he was alive, there was hope of meeting again. At this moment, Jared sighed. "So, it seems we have no way to repay him. He sacrificed so much for Willow, and he almost lost his life. With his status, even if we wanted to repay him, he wouldn't accept it." "That's true. We've been keeping this from Willow, but I'm worried that she'll find out one day. When that happens..." "Let's just take it one step at a time," Elliot said. Just then, his phone rang, and he went out to answer the call. Jared checked the time and went over to the elevator. Soon, he went up to the 3rd floor. Seeing the hall quiet down, Willow quietly hurried up to her room. Finally, she could lie happily on her bed, bury herself in the blanket, and let her happiness out. "Jasper, you dare lie to me. You dare not come to see me. When I find you, I'll make sure you regret it." Willow lamented in her heart. Clearly, he was safe and sound, yet he didn't contact her. Did he want to just leave her behind? Taking a deep breath, Willow suddenly touched the necklace around her neck. The tracker in this necklace still belonged to him, so wherever she went, he could track her. "Jasper, whether you want to see me or not, I won't let you leave me." She had finally gotten a definite message that he was still alive. It was the best gift Willow received today. She couldn't sleep at all tonight and stayed awake until morning. Anastasia brought breakfast to her daughter's room in the morning. Seeing her daughter still asleep, she couldn't help but sigh. It seemed her daughter had lost sleep again over matters of the heart. Willow slept until the afternoon before getting up. As soon as she got up, she was starving. She couldn't continue like this. She needed to regain her strength and look her best for Jasper's return. Anastasia was in a meeting downstairs with two managers. Just as they were discussing, the voice of a young girl interrupted them. "Mom, I'm hungry. Is there anything to eat?" Anastasia's voice was cut off. She turned to see her daughter stretching lazily while coming downstairs. Even though Willow had gotten up so late, Anastasia was suddenly filled with joy. Her daughter finally said she was hungry and was starting to act more like herself. "I'll get you something to eat right away," Anastasia said happily. She turned to the two managers and said, "You can go back now." The two managers immediately stood up and left. Anastasia looked at her daughter bathing in sunlight, feeling a bit dazed. It seemed like she hadn't seen her daughter so relaxed in a long time. Willow came over to her with a smiling face and hooked her arm. "Mom, what are you looking at?" At the sight of her daughter acting cute, it was as if she was no longer affected by Jasper's supposed passing. Anastasia felt a sudden sense of relief. "It's nothing. I'll get you something to eat." Willow nodded. She lay down on the sofa in the hall, picked up her phone, and started browsing through variety shows. The sadness and pain in Willow's heart were swept away. As long as she knew Jasper was alive and well in this world, she would be at ease. In the kitchen, Anastasia called her husband to tell him about their daughter's current situation. Elliot was surprised to hear it, but as parents, this was what they wished to see the most. After eating, Willow said she was going out. The security team immediately arranged a convoy to take her, and this time, Willow went to Jasper's villa. Elliot knew about this, but he allowed his daughter to do whatever she pleased, as long as it made her happy. Willow entered Jasper's villa alone and took out a piece of paper. On it, she wrote in large letters, "Jasper, I know you're still alive. You have 3 days to contact me, or I'll get engaged." After finishing, Willow looked up with an irritated expression and left. In the evening, Leslie took Willow to attend a private dinner, which was organized by the Luxury Car Club. Willow's arrival did spark interest among many wealthy heirs. They knew that being with Willow would be a great boon for their families. Willow was a bit distracted. She occasionally checked her phone, hoping for something, but every time, she gritted her teeth and locked her phone. "Whose call are you waiting for, Willow?" Leslie had been observing her for some time now. Willow smiled and shook her head. "I'm not, I was just checking the time." Suddenly, she suggested, "Let's dance." His eyes lit up. "I'd love to." They headed to the dance floor. Then, Willow approached a young woman and whispered, "Can you help me record a video of us dancing?" The said young woman was more than happy to help. Willow and Leslie danced to the music. Both had been trained in dance from a young age, allowing them to captivate the attention of everyone on the dance floor. When the song ended, she reclaimed her phone and checked the video. With a mischievous smirk, she promptly uploaded it to her social media and eagerly awaited a message from Jasper. She was resolute that if he didn't reach out within 3 days, she'd do whatever it took to force him out of hiding. Over at the base, Jasper had just returned to his room after completing his training routine. Right now, his daily routine was rather monotonous, with his primary focus being checking up on Willow. He yearned to know what she was up to each day and whether she was happy. With his hacking expertise, he had access to virtually anything on the internet. Hence, spying on someone's life was a piece of cake for him. He decided to check the security footage of his villa. He was taken aback by the discovery of a new note. He zoomed in for a closer look, and his eyes widened in shock as he read it. "Willow knows I'm still alive? How did she find out?" Jasper started to panic. He rewound the footage and saw how pissed Willow had been when she wrote the note. He chuckled and thought, "Is she trying to bait me into seeing her? She's using a rather childish method." Around 9:00 p.m., Willow returned home. At that moment, Elliot and Anastasia were sitting in the living room waiting for her. They heard their daughter humming a cheerful tune and couldn't help but wonder why she was so happy. Elliot and Anastasia exchanged curious glances, wondering what had brought about this sudden happiness. They recalled how upset Willow had been just the previous night. They asked if her newfound happiness might be connected to her developing a crush on Leslie. As Willow entered the living room, she noticed her parents and tried to hide her awkwardness by biting her lip. "Mom, Dad," she greeted sweetly. "Why are you still up? How can we sleep when you're not home?" Anastasia replied, taking Willow's purse and observing her daughter's bright eyes. "Did you have fun with Leslie today?" Willow nodded. "Yeah. I had a good time. We even danced together." Anastasia was surprised by Willow's initiative to dance with a guy and thought her daughter must really like Leslie. Hence, she felt a sense of relief, confident that she didn't need to worry anymore. Elliot and Anastasia were more than happy to have Leslie as their son-in-law. They could find no fault with his family background, character, and capabilities. He was also Jared's good friend, so he would undoubtedly blend right into the family. "Mom, Dad, I'm heading to my room now. You guys should head to bed, too." Willow grabbed her purse and hurried up the stairs. Anastasia exhaled in relief. She sat down beside Elliot and rested her head against his shoulder. "I can finally rest easy now. Willow's all grown up now. She has her own thoughts and opinions. We shouldn't try to interfere with her life." Elliot had finally learned to let go and allow his daughter to find her own happiness. The moment Willow returned to her room, she immediately logged into her social media account. Many people had watched the video, but she was particularly interested to know if Jasper had seen it. Therefore, Willow began to check every single account. She didn't stop even when her eyes started to water. After reviewing everyone who viewed her video, she found no trace of Jasper. Only then did it dawn on Willow that Jasper was a computer and technology expert, making her realize he could have viewed her social media posts without leaving a trace. This realization annoyed her. She rubbed her eyes and decided to tell Leslie the truth another day, planning to ask him to stage an act with her. She was determined to force Jasper out of the shadows. She resolved that if he genuinely didn't care about her, so be it. She'd let go too, but she couldn't help wondering if he would show up if he did care about her. In the middle of the night, Amy sneaked into Jasper's room. He had been struggling with sleepless nights, and it was taking a toll on his health. Hence, Antoine had insisted Jasper take a powerful sleeping pill. At that moment, Jasper was in a deep slumber when she slipped in. She didn't hide the affection in her eyes as she stared at his face. Her attention eventually fixated on his slender lips, and a selfish desire began to consume her thoughts. She wanted to get a taste of his lips. She swallowed and bit her lip as she reached out to hold his hand. Just then, he grabbed her by the hand as he murmured in his dreams, "Willow, Willow." The man repeatedly called for Willow as he clutched Amy's hand tightly. It was clear that he had mistaken Amy for Willow. Although Jasper was holding Amy's hand, she felt deeply hurt that he was calling out another woman's name. She couldn't help but feel angry that Willow was the only one on his mind, even though she had been right beside him all along. She wondered if he knew that she had been in love with him for 5 years. Amy's heart was filled with bitterness. Suddenly, she found herself resenting why Willow couldn't simply remain a well-off socialite and avoid entangling herself with someone like him. Eventually, she let go of his hand because she was unable to bear hearing him call out for Willow. Just as she was about to leave the room, she turned toward the man and muttered, "I won't let you be bewitched by her, Jasper. I'll make her leave you." Back in her room, she got her laptop out and looked up Willow's social media accounts. When she saw Willow's active life and her involvement with a rich and handsome young man, Amy sneered, doubting if Willow was worthy of Jasper's love. "Is this the woman you love with all your heart, Jasper? The woman you're willing to risk your life for?" She doesn't care about you at all. As Amy went through Willow's social media posts, she assumed Willow was one of those wealthy socialites with a sordid private life. A woman like her isn't good enough for Jasper. I was such a fool. Why did I give up on him? I should fight for him. What if he does end up being mine? Amy thought as she glared at Willow's smiling face on the screen. I'm going to warn Willow and tell her to stay away from him. At that thought, she started typing a message. She sent the message without knowing about Antoine's plan and Willow's unawareness of Jasper's survival. Meanwhile, Willow was in her room, browsing the internet, even though it was already 3 a.m. She was waiting for Jasper to show up. When she heard a beep, she received a text message that left her stunned. Stay away from Jasper, Willow. Stop hurting him. Willow's chest tightened. She wondered who the sender was, so she quickly typed out a question. Who are you? You've seen me before. I'm Amy Hawkins. Stunned, Willow recalled Amy's face. It's her. Is she with Jasper right now? At that thought, she immediately bombarded Amy with questions. How's Jasper? Is he badly injured? Amy's expression darkened. She had only intended to warn Willow to stay away from Jasper, not to become her source of information.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.